Get rid of that thing. Okay, good morning. I'm glad you're here bright and early. I'm sure you have a place to be probably around 10 o'clock. It's been a long 34 days since the election on November 3rd. We have now counted legally cast ballots 3 times, and the results remain unchanged. As Secretary of State, I have worked to secure the vote for all Georgians. On day 1, we outlawed ballot harvesting. We strengthened signature match through the GBI training and moved towards an audible paper ballot system. I am the first Secretary of State to implement a driver's license requirement for online absentee ballot applications, which strengthened the security of our absentee ballot process. Whether it is the President of the United States or a failed gubernatorial candidate, disinformation regarding election administration should be condemned and rejected. Integrity matters, truth matters. Today, the Secretary of State's office will be recertifying our state's election results. Then the safe harbor under the United States Code to name electors is tomorrow, and then they will meet on December 14th to officially elect the next president. While we will continue our investigations to their conclusions, and where prosecution is necessary, we will work with the State Election Board to refer them to the proper prosecutors. We are working with the counties to assure a fair, safe, and secure election for January 5th. We will continue to take steps to assure that only legally registered Georgians will be casting ballots. So let's discuss where we are and where we are heading in Georgia. All this talk of a stolen election, whether it's Stacey Abrams or the President of the United States, is hurting our state. Georgia is the #1 state in the nation to do business for nearly a decade. Continuing to make debunked claims of a stolen election is hurting our state. I started my business and built it from the ground up. I've employed hundreds and hundreds of Georgians, men and women, in those years. I know what it takes to build teams that work to strengthen buildings, restore and strengthen old landmarks. And I have also built a team that knows how to win an election. I also have built a team that knows how to run and oversee elections. And I understand we need to focus on the future of growing businesses here in Georgia, getting through the COVID pandemic, and bringing more good-paying Georgians to our state. The vast majority of Georgians, Republicans and Democrats, want us, all of us, as elected officials, to focus on protecting and growing Georgia jobs, getting the vaccine out as efficiently as possible, and getting back to normal. The focus on November 3rd is drawing energy away from those goals. The President has his due process rights, and those are available to him. It's time we all focus on the future and growth. I know there are people that are convinced the election was fraught with problems, but the evidence, the actual evidence, the facts tell us a different story. Business owners across Georgia know it's time to focus on the future. Georgians have serious issues that need to be addressed. I am looking forward to a great Christmas time and then a good legislative session. We will have our elections bill brought forward. It'll be a major reform of our election processes where I will work with the legislature, the governor, the lieutenant governor, Duncan, and we can all work together to help all of our businesses and make Georgia an even better place to do business so that each and every Georgian can get a good job or those brave entrepreneurs can start their next small business. It is now time to direct our energies towards the January 5th runoff election and then to making Georgia an even better place to grow your businesses, raise your families, and enjoy prosperity here in Georgia. Thank you.
Good morning. Didn't bring my computer today because we only have a few numbers to go through. First, as the Secretary pointed out, we will be recertifying today. We are waiting on the County Elections Board meeting in Coffee County. They knocked off and work on Friday. We tried to talk to them again this morning. They weren't quite in the office yet, so we don't know the exact time of that meeting, but we are working to figure that out. As he pointed out, the safe harbor is tomorrow, so we still have time to have the bills of ascertainment sent to D.C. so the electors can be sat properly. All right, moving on to the January 5th election. So far, we have 1,037,172 absentee ballot. I've talked too much the last week, guys. 1,037,172 absentee ballot applications have been put into the voter registration system. We have about 39,259 that are on the dashboard for the online request process. So that's a total of 1,076,431. So far, 43,289 voters have already had their ballots accepted at the county level. And this is a new number to talk about. The BallotTrax system, which is the system we put in place to allow for proactive notifications to go out. We have 240,912 voters signed up for that right now. And of those, 12,547 have already got their ballots into us. And now we'll move on to what I'm going to call Disinformation Monday. Out of the gate, many of y'all saw the videotape from State Farm Arena. I spent hours with our post-certified investigators, Justin Gray from WSB, spent hours with us going over this video to explain to people that what you saw, the secret suitcases with magic ballots, were actually ballots that had been packed into those absentee ballot carriers by the workers in plain view of the monitors and the press. The reason they were packed away is because they were under the misbegotten impression that they were getting to go home, which if you notice, when you go back to see the videos on this, they were packing these things up 10:30 at night. You see some of the same people there at 7 and 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning setting up those tables. They had been there all day long. They were tired and wanted to go home, and they thought they could. What happened around that time, for many of you who were with us on election night, saw the secretary leaving around a similar time. We had heard that they were knocking off for the day, and he was understandably not happy with that and made that very clear, I think, on the way out the door. So our elections director for the state called the Fulton County elections director, Rick Barron, who was at the English Avenue warehouse doing election day activities, not at State Farm Arena, and said, "Why are y'all knocking off?" And he basically said, "What do you mean we're not knocking off?" And he goes, "Well, from what we understand at State Farm, they are." So Rick got off that phone call. Then you see Ralph Jones at State Farm Arena getting a phone call around that time as he's literally with blue seals in his hand to seal up these containers. And you can see his shoulders kind of slump for a second. Then he goes over and does some more work on the side, I think ginning up the courage to go tell these workers who had been there all day, "Hey guys, we have to stay here longer to keep scanning at least the batches we have." So you can watch all this happen. You can see it from the beginning to the end. We watched the beginning of that thing, and let's be clear. There was no water main break. There was a urinal that they turned off during the downtimes of State Farm because there's no events going on there, and it had a little slow leak that came over the side. We have the videotape, and we're working to get this videotape online, but it's 80 gigabytes, and we don't really have a tool to let y'all run through it all right now. We're trying to figure that out right now, so we got it into manageable bites of the most important parts of the day. That should be hopefully online today or tomorrow. So you'll see when they walk in and they see the obvious water leak on the floor. You will see when they move all the stuff out of the way. You will see the Zamboni little carpet dryer thingy driving around. I mean, you can see all these things happen. You can see the table get put in place. And what's really frustrating is the president's attorneys had this same videotape. They saw the exact same things the rest of us could see, and they chose to mislead state senators and the public about what was on that video. I'm quite sure that they will not characterize the video if they try to enter it into evidence, because that is the kind of thing that could lead to sanctions, because it's obviously untrue. They knew it was untrue, and they continue to do things like this. So that's one. Ware County. There are no seized machines in Ware County. Not true. Did not happen. There was a written report from an activist who says the hand count was 37 off. It was. He says the only reason it could be off is because of an algorithm in the machines, which is ridiculous. What have we been saying since the beginning? The most obvious fault point in any of the system is the human beings who are counting them. Again, it was 0.26%. That's pretty close, especially when all the studies show you expect a 1 to 2% differential on hand-counted ballots. And if you take that math, and that biggest part of the hand-counted ballots that you could have problems on is the mail-in absentee. If you look at 25% of 1 to 2%. What does that get you? About 2.26%. So that's well within the normal range. There is no algorithm proof. There are no seized machines. I believe some people are trying to conflate this with some of the machines being inspected in Michigan, but that's just not the case. And then specifically, a United States congressman sent this disinformation out on his Twitter. He wrote it himself. Again, it's irresponsible. I was the campaign manager years ago in 1994 for the first Republican to get that 10th district seat. He would never have acted that irresponsibly, and I'm frustrated that we continue to see people who are put in positions of responsibility sending out this disinformation and undermining the electoral system. Okay, another one. Jen Jordan and Elena Parent did not get on a plane to go count votes in Pennsylvania. Okay? They basically said, here's a picture of a blonde woman in a mask. Here's another picture of a blonde woman in a mask. Obviously, there's a conspiracy where Democrat state senators are counting ballots in Pennsylvania. It's ridiculous. I can't believe I have to keep on standing here and saying these things, but I do. And so, there is no algorithm. The 5 million ballot hand count proves there's no algorithm switching votes. Is there any of the disinformation I missed over the weekend, guys? Justin, I'm not sure. Yeah.
The one I keep hearing over and over is a woman scanning ballots over and over and over again. Can you explain whether the machines can count a ballot 3 times?
Well, if it counted it 5 times, guess what? It would have shown up in the hand count. Because if you do the same batch, and let's say, I don't even know how many there were, 100, 200, whatever it was, and let's say you do it 3 times, they would have been 600 off on that on the hand count. They weren't. I mean, it's just, as I've said, and y'all have heard me say it before, it's like a ridiculous game of whack-a-mole. You just keep on finding the next one, and it kind of we're now at the point where they've recycled them. They're going back to the algorithm thing that they've been debunked before. So, all right, what else? What other questions we got? Yes. Yeah.
Again, we all know how this works, but if you can explain, I think some people don't understand that there is a ballot that prints out from the machine, and that's how you have one.
Okay. There's 2 different types of, well, there's 4 different buckets of 2 different types of ballots, and let's go through those right now. You have the traditional hand-marked paper ballots, which we're all used to. They were kind of like the old Scantron sheets when we took our SATs when we were in high school and stuff, where you bubble something in. And in this state, those cover the provisionals, occasionally the emergency ballots if you don't have the regular ballots going, and then the absentee by mail. That's one. That's about probably 25% of our overall votes. About 75% of our votes come from the ballot marking device, which was the new tool that the legislature adopted in a bill in 2019 that we had a state procurement under. There were 3 bidders. Dominion Voting Systems won that bid process. There was no challenge to that bid process, meaning it was a very clean bid process. And we began the deployment of those that summer, and we made the initial delivery deadline of Valentine's Day of 2020. That machine, you take a screen, before you check in on a device that has nothing to do with the voting machines. This is just to identify you and then give you a card to give you your ballot on the ballot marking device. You insert that card, it then brings up your ballot on the screen. You then make your selections on that screen, and when you are done, you'll say, print ballot. You print the ballot, it comes off an HP printer. You can look at that ballot, assure that your choices are the choices you intended to make. And then you take that to a completely different machine. It's a scanner that's in the polling location. You can have 1 or 2, occasionally 3 scanners in there, and you drop it into that. You can watch it go, the counter go up to one extra as your ballot goes through, and at that time it tabulates it on there and it takes an image of your ballot. So we have 2 things that's capturing on that, and then from there, the memory cards from those are taken to the central location where they have their central election management system to tabulate all and aggregate all the ballots together. So there is an artifact of where the voter made a choice that exists, and by law it has to be held for another 2 years. Under Georgia law, I think 22 months under federal law. So, and that's what we use for the hand retally. Those are the same ballots we use for the recount that we are recertifying today. Does that cover your question? Yeah.
There's a lot of questions about signature audit. I know you guys are going to do a signature audit with signatures in the chat. There's a lot of misinformation going around that just ballot envelopes have been destroyed. That's not signatures.
Yes. The ballot envelopes, under the same laws that keep the ballots alive, also have you have those for 2 more years. And there will be, Governor Kemp and Secretary Raffensperger are working together. We're going to be bringing in the GBI as handwriting experts to go over those specific counties where there are specific allegations about any issues around the signature match with the absentee ballots. But that is not a statewide, signature audit, because one of the remedies asked for in the Powell lawsuit is if there's a certain percentage, they don't really say what, that don't match, and it's a subjective measure. As we all know, everybody's ballot signatures can change. It's a subjective measure. So if you're arguing over that, then they'll say a certain percentage. If we get to that certain percentage, throw out all the absentee ballots, which is a ridiculously over-the-top hammer that no federal court is going to allow. So again, it was an unnecessary thing, but we always investigate when we have specific allegations. When there's a specific allegation to investigate, we'll do it. But a generalized, we don't like the outcome, we think this is a faulty part of the system, we're not going to do that. But we've said before, the place in the system that is the most likely to have an issue is going to be in the absentee by mail program, because in person, we always present an ID. So we absolutely know that the person who is voting is that person who's supposed to be voting legally. One second, let me go over there.
In the recount results, Fulton County looks like it has almost 900 fewer votes in the recount. Why is that, and does that worry you?
It's about 2 votes per precinct. It's a big county. It's a little worrisome, and my best guess is they have a batch somewhere they didn't get. And we've been asking about it. The problem is the clock's running. The clock ran out. And it's a big county. They've had managerial issues. We know that. And of those ballots, because they were so heavily for Vice President Biden, that means his total in the statewide counts, I'm sure we've all seen online, is about 900 lower. But again, not enough to make up the difference of 12,000. It's frustrating because, again, we see these managerial issues coming out of Fulton County. And I know they're tired. I know they're put upon to a degree, but they consistently have these, and they have, we had that press conference at Park Tavern where we put up all the headlines from like 1995 on. None of this is new with them. So it is frustrating, and it's a little irritating. I mean, another anomaly we saw was Appling County, where they had 49 ballots that had been stuck in adjudication. Not stuck in, they got left in. We literally did a phone call to every county that says, hey, we know this is a problem in some counties. Make sure you get your ballots off adjudication. They didn't until this final time. So everybody's learning this new system. It's a high-stress environment right now because the presidential election was so close. So those kind of things are going to happen. And that's when you've handled these ballots now 3 times, they're always going to be a little bit different because human beings are involved in the process. Yes?
How many new voters have registered for runoffs since November?
I don't have the answer to that question. We'll try to get it. Part of the reason we don't is because only as of last Tuesday or Wednesday, really, could Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton put any new registrations in because they were involved in their large runoffs. Yes? No, I have no idea what they're talking about, but they need to present their evidence if they make that kind of claim. Yes.
The role of the GBI, what would their role be in helping Secretary of State investigators looking into these 250 plus?
Well, the main role they would have is they have expertise in the handwriting, so they would be a big part of, I think, of the 250, I think there's 18, and I could be wrong on this, but I think it's about 18 cases having to do with absentee ballot and absentee ballot handling. So that would be the main thing I think they'd go through. I don't know the manpower that they're going to be throwing at the whole thing for all the other cases. And let me make one other thing clear. The 250 cases is all of 2020 that are still open. From November on is a lower number, a subset. I will try to get that number to you all because I know the people saying they all came out of general election. That's not exactly true. It was 250 for all of 2020. And it's probably my fault because I put the Excel spreadsheet and grabbed everything from 2020 and did a count. So I'm going to go back and do that again to get the subset proper. Yeah, Justin.
2 questions, one for me, for another order, okay?
That's fine.
The one for me is about that gap that we keep hearing about, that you say is about an hour before we started counting before your observer got back. Can you explain any of that, I guess, what happens to the votes counted in that gap? I mean, that's why we have a recount, right?
There's a secondary thing about this. Under our state law, observers are allowed to be there. They are not required to be there. That's the main thing. So this is not illegal counting, as it says. Now, I understand the frustration, especially on the Republican side, because as I said before, everybody in that room thought they were getting to go home. The press, the workers were leaving. The press, like, well, we may as well go ahead and leave. There's no reason that the election workers couldn't think the same. The observers couldn't think the same thing. They were all literally boxing things up and putting seals on. The doors were not locked. Nobody was kept out. It's frustrating because I know somebody might have said, because there's no audio to this is a problem, so it's always going to be a he said, she said from now ad infinitum. And somebody said, we're done for the night. But nobody said, all of you people have to leave. There was nobody directing people to leave. In fact, while people were in the room still working, the observers could have stayed for that, because things could happen then too as they're boxing things up. So I'm not saying it's the observer's fault or the press's fault. It was a long day for these people. And let's just use some common sense, which I know is such a rare thing to say. They were tired and wanted to go home. They were frustrated when they didn't get to go home. So I think everybody's kind of under the impression they're leaving. It's 10:30 at night. Let's let it go. And then they started working again once the irony of this is we can't win for losing. We call Fulton County to say keep on working. They keep on working. All of a sudden it becomes a giant conspiracy that they worked when nobody was there because we were frustrated they weren't working long enough. So it's kind of a circular thing where we're trying to keep counties diligently working to meet the goal of getting these election results out quickly. And then because there was a miscommunication from the manager at Fulton County to the manager at State Farm who thought they could finish, that caused all of this. Yeah. Okay, who is it from before? Okay, that's fine.
He's talking about what happens when a voter dies. Some states have laws on the books that if you voted before the election day, cast an early ballot, doesn't count. What happens to that voter? Voter dies before the election, and what's the process of getting that voter off the rolls?
Well, I'll start with the easy part. The main process of getting a dead voter off the rolls is handled at the county level. They get vital records come in, and they just deal with it, usually monthly or weekly, depending on the processes they have in place. Now, secondarily, as we have made very clear, when the ballot envelope is separated from the secrecy sleeve, there is no way to go claw that vote back. It is in the system. Same thing as if somebody goes and early votes in person and gets hit by a car, you can't go back and get that ballot back out. It's just physically impossible given the privacy rules in our state. So again, that answer your question? All right. Today is the final day for Georgians to register to vote in the January 5th runoff election. If you can go to it's usually when their doors close at the registrars. If you do it in person, you can go to the online portal if you have a driver's license attached to your voter registration, or if you have a driver's license, because we can find your information from that. And that goes to 11:59 tonight. Yes? As I pointed out in the beginning, we're waiting for Coffee County to do their certification, and they took the weekend off, and I talked to somebody who talked to the county commission chairman who hasn't been told yet when they're having the elections board get together to do that certification. It has to be today. It will have to be today.
How will we know? Are you guys going to send out a press release when it's certified?
Yeah, probably will. All right, anything else? All right, thank y'all.